Hello, this is Jenny Kassan. Thanks so much for joining me today for Jenny Lays Down the Law. This is where we talk about all of the tools and strategies, legal tools, mindset tools, strategy tools that you need to be able to raise money for your business on your own terms. How do you actually go out and get those investors? So we're not focusing so much on the legal part. We're more focusing on how do you really enroll investors. And last month, 2 weeks ago, I talked about the fact that I had come up with a 9-step process that I realized is kind of what I do when I go out and raise money myself. I've raised money 4 times. One time it was only $50,000. Another time it was as much as 1.1 million. So I've done it 4 times, all very different circumstances, but every time I do it, I go through that process of figuring out like, oh my gosh, how do I actually go out and reach those investors? So we're not talking about the legal structure, the compliance, we're talking about how do you actually go out and get investors. So last week we talked about step 1 in my 9-step process, which is your mindset. And what I want to talk about this week is how do you actually start figuring out who to reach out to? Who are these people that you're going to reach out to? And that's basically steps 4 and 5 in my 9-step process. So I'm going to give you a little taste of 3 parts of how to start figuring out who you're going to reach out to. And I also have a bonus step that I'm going to share with you after those 3 that can really help you get some awesome investors. So let's see. So like I said, this week I'm going to share 3 steps for finding investors and plus a bonus step. And this is part of like a bigger process that I've put together, which is all about how do you actually go out and get investors. So the first step that I want to talk about is just getting yourself set up for success. So a lot of entrepreneurs kind of start reaching out to investors kind of willy-nilly, run around like chickens with their heads cut off to every, opportunity that they might hear about. So what I really recommend is creating your tool that you're going to use for tracking the whole process. So it could be simple as an Excel spreadsheet. The last time I raised money, I was doing it with a business partner. And so we created a shared Google Sheet, and it was super simple. We just listed every time we thought of a new person to reach out to, we would put that person's name in the sheet, and then we'd have different cells for things like, did you reach out? What was the response? Have you met with them? What did they say? So just getting that going in the very beginning is way easier to, it's going to make life much easier as you start to reach out to investors because, sometimes you may end up reaching out to quite a lot of people and you want to track what the responses are. Some people get a little bit more fancy and they use some kind of customer relationship management system. And that can be a really good idea too, because then that can remind you, oh, I haven't heard from so-and-so in a while. I'm going to follow up with them. So that's step 1 is just getting yourself set up with a system. Step 2 is to do a brain dump of every possible person that could be an investor for you. And this is a time to not censor yourself at all. And you can use the system that you set up in step 1. You can use that tool as a place to put those names. So just think of everyone that you could possibly imagine who might be interested. And one thing to really be careful about is not to assume that if someone you think, yeah, they might be interested, don't say to yourself, oh, but they have no money. Because what I've found is it's often incorrect, the assumptions that you have about whether people have money to invest. And plus, it's just not really up to you to make that decision for them. It's really, if there's someone out there that wants to invest in your business, give them that opportunity. It's kind of rude if you don't offer it to them. Of course, they can say no. So this is kind of about staying in your lane, not making assumptions, and just listing everyone you can think of, regardless of your beliefs about their money situation, who might be interested in becoming an investor. And don't forget, it doesn't have to be a lot of money depending on your situation. A lot of my clients set their minimums low. For example, the last time I raised money, I set my minimum at 10,000. And then we even had someone come in at 8,000, so it doesn't have to be huge amounts of money. If you're doing investment crowdfunding, or if you're not raising a lot of money, you might set your minimum even lower. I have a client right now whose minimum is $100. So that's really accessible. So a lot of people are able to say yes. And I would say in this step 2, where you're kind of brainstorming your list of people to reach out to, just really include everyone you can think of. And don't forget, it really is true that sometimes people can be insulted if you don't give them the opportunity. Later on, when things are going really well and your investors are starting to get paid, they may come to you and say, why didn't you ever ask me? So don't forget about that. Also, I have seen, this kind of relates, if you've heard of the concept of accredited investors, this is where we'll bring some legal stuff in. Some people will tell you should only reach out to accredited investors, and that's defined under the federal law as a person with at least $1 million in net worth, not including their home, or 200,000 in annual income. But, depending on your legal strategy, it is absolutely possible to raise money from everybody. So, and I really encourage my clients to consider strategies that allow them to reach out to everybody, because what I've found is that sometimes unaccredited investors will invest fairly large amounts. I've had 2 clients that got $25,000 investments from unaccredited investors. So just goes to show you just don't want to make assumptions. So that's number 2, doing a brain dump of everyone you can think of that might be interested. And you can do that by looking through your email inbox, your Facebook friends, or LinkedIn connections, and just, really start with a big list. And of course, you can prioritize that later. You just want to realize that there are a lot of potential investors out there that you already know. Now, and of course, one really, really great place to focus on, I'm telling you now to just do a brain dump, but don't forget to include people that are your potential customers, because those are going to be some of your best potential investors, because they're already interested and excited about what you're doing. So potential or existing customers, suppliers too, anyone who benefits from what your business does. Okay, so you have your big brain dump. Now, maybe, so I've had clients where they've done brain dumps and they've only come up with maybe 10 people or 5 people. And they're just like, I don't know anyone. I don't know anyone. And that's fine. It doesn't have to be a huge list. As long as you have a few to start out with, that's all you need, because once you start, it's going to be kind of like a momentum, like a snowball rolling down the hill. You're going to get the momentum by just starting. Now, of course, I'm not advising you to start actually talking to anyone yet, because you would first want to make sure you're doing your legal compliance piece correctly first. But just know that even if you have only a list of like 3 or 5 people, that is already an awesome start. Now, but what if it's kind of true that you really can't think of many people? And I'm going to really question that. But let's say it's really true. It's hard for you to think of people. Don't forget that a lot of your potential investors might be people that you actually don't know yet. They're people that you have yet to meet. So a third step is to start looking at events and other opportunities where you can start to meet people and get exposure to people who could become potential investors. So this could be networking events, speaking opportunities, conferences, being a guest on a podcast. Just really start focusing on meeting new people and not just any new people, but people who are likely to share the same thing, the same interests that you have that caused you to start your business in the first place. You're going to if you have that in mind, if that in the back of your mind, like, hey, I'm on a mission to meet people that are going to be passionate about the business that I'm doing, you will start meeting those people all over the place, and they're going to tell you about more people. So that's going to really allow you to add to your list. And of course, the bonus for that is those are people who could potentially support you in other ways, like becoming a customer or, telling their friends about you or whatever. So that's step 3, is to think about ways to meet new people. And then when you meet those new people, add them to that list that you created. Okay, so to summarize those 3 steps, 1 is create your system for tracking your potential investors. Step 2 is do a big brain dump of who your potential investors might be, people that you already know. And 3 is to start going to things. Hopefully you're already doing this, but with the going to things and showing up at things and paying attention to things where you're likely to meet potential investors, and then add those people to your list. So those are the 3 steps for starting to figure out who you're going to talk to. Now, I promise you that there are going to be people who will invest in your business that are not going to be on that list, because once you start going out and talking to people, they're going to say, oh my gosh, I've got to tell my friend about you. They would love this, or, oh, have you talked to so-and-so? So your list is going to grow, but just having a starting list, even if it's small, is the way you want to start. And again, don't forget, you don't really want to start going out and talking to investors until you have figured out the legal compliance piece, because often it's not actually legal to offer an investment opportunity to someone until you've done that legal compliance piece. Now, I want to add a bonus tip to those 3. And that is something I've found over the years, is it can be really helpful to talk to people whose profession it is to manage other people's money. So they have different names like investment advisors, wealth managers, etc. People who have clients who may or may not be super wealthy. I mean, a lot of people out there, even many who are not super wealthy, hire someone to manage their money. So I would recommend starting to reach out to people who are in that industry. You may already know people in that industry, or you could meet them through friends. Like, ask your friends who manages your money. There's, most people, I'd say a majority of the adult population that does have money to invest in terms of retirement funds or whatever, they probably do use someone. I'm not sure that's true, but I'm guessing. Anyway, start to do some kind of informational interviews with those people. Take them out for coffee or tea or lunch or whatever, and just ask them, what are you hearing from your clients in terms of what they're looking for? Because what I've found is a lot of financial advisors and wealth managers have clients that are frustrated because they're not able to find the kinds of opportunities that they're interested in. So start to cultivate relationships with people who have clients that are looking for places to put their money. And, it might not lead to an investment, but, it has happened to me and to some of my clients that they've known a financial advisor who has introduced them to that financial advisor's clients, and an investment ended up getting made because the financial advisor gets a lot of, brownie points when they can introduce their clients to an investment opportunity that they know they're going to like. So those are my tips for creating your list of who you're going to reach out to as a potential investor. Those are basically parts of steps 4 and 5 of my 9-step process for finding investors and enrolling investors. So thank you so much for joining. Have a good rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.